a lot of people still don't understand that crypto and blockchain is like the worst way how you can launder money. The most dumb idea that could pop into your head as a fraudster, because it's transparent.
Traceable, yeah.
Yeah, it's traceable, it's transparent. You can see everything that is happening there. However, the main threat driver there is actually the loss of economic value to the general population. Then in Web3 specifically, where there is multiverse, when there is VR and all that stuff, I think the main driver will be like identity theft. This is what people need to be worried.
Lev, great meeting you. Thanks for taking time to speak to us.
Likewise, happy to be here.
Great. So let's just get started. Tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us what it is that you do.
Yeah, so my name is Lev. I'm one of the co-founders at Huntli. Huntli is a risk management, transaction monitoring, and fraud prevention software for fintech companies. We service fintech payment service providers on like different spectrums who do acquiring, issuing, just opening like standard bank accounts. We work with banks as well. And we're from Latvia, so we started 1.5 years ago, and it's been quite well so far for us. I'm not alone. I have my two co-founders. Guys are more technical, so I'm very good at speaking. Well, they are actually very great at doing great things.
Right.
So I'm more like a talking head.
Okay, well, that's always good to have one. I'm keen to understand. There's a number of RegTech companies, and a lot of companies are coming up with services for transaction monitoring and anti-money laundering. What's special about Huntli? What's your core value proposition and your differentiators?
So we understand quite early that there are a lot of companies out there who provide IML as a service, KYC as a service, transaction monitoring as a service, risk management as a service. Those are paramount companies, but a lot of their functionality could be bundled together and could be offered more efficiently all in one place, because it's a predominant problem on the market that compliance managers would have 5 to 6 different systems that they use that not necessarily communicate with one another pretty well. And we are sort of eliminating that problem with this all-in-one solution that we currently have.
Right, and then I guess that comes in very handy as the market starts to downturn and companies start to consolidate suppliers. The fact that you have a broader set of features, right? Yeah,
that's right. So everybody is looking for a way to sort of be more efficient and be more sustainable, and this is what we are utilizing right now.
Right. Okay. So maybe just to start, tell us a little bit about the problem that your features solve, and tell us why it is a problem.
Yeah, sure. So currently what we see worldwide is that the general expenses on different types of compliance software, compliance procedure, day-to-day operations, etc., they exceeded 180 billion last year, and it tend to grow about 5 to 7% year over year. So we see a lot of market opportunity there to make market more sustainable, more efficient in what it does. And we have consolidated 4 key features into our system that before that was handled by multiple different smaller solutions. And we essentially help our clients cut up to 50 or even 60% of their day-to-day compliance costs just with our software.
Right. Okay. So just so that I understand, that your software does helps customers remain compliant.
Yes, but also efficiently monitor their day-to-day risks. So whenever somebody does a set of transactions or just behaves weirdly to some extent in the banking system, our system can automatically stop that, prevent potential fraud happening. It could be finance-related fraud or just consumer-related fraud. And make some decisions automatically. So automation is the key here.
Okay. Now, what we've seen is that through digitalization, the speed of transactions is increasing and is becoming immediate when you have account-to-account payments and that sort of thing, which is great for the user. But I also think it provides plenty of opportunities for criminals that don't have that buffer of time that previously would allow people to verify whether the transaction was legitimate or not. So how is Huntli dealing with the added complexity of having to make these decisions in real time?
Yeah, so I would imagine our software not like a additional gear inside the system that might make the system more complex. It's more like a lubricant to that banking system, to its like compliance gears that might not turn that efficiently. Also with, as you correctly mentioned, added load of instant SEPA, for example, necessity of instant transactions, customers expecting instant transactions. And we are sort of helping those gears turn more efficiently, less frictionless, while providing pretty decent level of security.
Right, and you mentioned automation, which I think is always very interesting to listen to in terms of AML and transaction monitoring. But we also know that there isn't a component of too many alerts or too many false positives, that kind of. So tell us a little bit how you're dealing with that.
Yeah, so alerts is the driver of the compliance department. It's pain and it's its driver in the same place. We whenever alert is generated, now it's usually a person who needs to go to investigate, to make some decision. With our system, we allow sort of to automate some decision-making process to an extent that it would be enough for a compliance manager to just look post factum to some decisions that our system made and maybe revert if necessary. But so far we have heard like a lot of positive reviews, and that now compliance managers actually do save time and are more focused on higher priority case, more high risk case. And also to a bank in general, it sort of gave them a great opportunity to provide better services to their clients.
Okay, now we've heard that preventing crime, fighting illegal activities within the financial system, it's a collaborative work. Definitely. That involves multiple organizations that sometimes can be competitors, as well as regulators, as well as the law enforcement. How do you deal with that, and how can you enable that cross collaboration to take place?
So actually, still in this moment in time, banks are very secretive and very guarding around issues that are happening inside their systems, about their customers, about certain issues that they're having. They are obliged to report to the regulator in a form of so-called SARS. This is suspicious activity reports, and but they are not keen on sharing this information with anybody else. This is something that we are sort of trying to change a bit. We have this like part of our solution that is called Compliance Pulse, where we would distribute information about like potential new fraud scenarios or potential like bad actors throughout our partner and our client network equally, so everybody would be on alert. Because what we also recognized quite early is that fraudsters, they don't use just one system, they don't focus on one system. They try to sort of scout out the market, figure out those who are the weakest, and then shoot out in many directions. So we sort of, with our system, will help to secure the whole industry, make sure that everybody's playing on an even field.
Okay, and I think that brings me nicely to my next question, which is about, can you help us understand what goes in the mind of someone that's trying to game the system? I mean, what are financial criminals? How do they think?
like ultimate destruction and suffering of others is a driving factor to them. They are focused on themselves primarily, so they want monetary gain by any means necessary, and so far exploiting some people's trust, exploiting some people's lack of maybe financial literacy was their main revenue generating source.
Right. Okay. So there is quite a strong component of social engineering in the way in which they operate. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's right. There is the weakest link in any like financial crime is usually the person itself. The cost of like criminals, financial criminals, they do circumvent regulations, yes, but the main revenue generating source for them is always people's own misfortunes or misfortunate behavior, if I may.
Right.
So even if we look at the sanction evasion field, which is like more political, I really don't want to touch this field, but even there, they rely on bank employees that are willing to sort of go for a stretch or stretch their own internal banking risk management guidelines to sort of put that money through them and help those people.
Okay, and my understanding is that usually this is a very challenging field to be working in because regulation is always 2 steps behind the criminals, right? If anyone, the criminals are always at the forefront of finding new ways of circumventing the system. As an organization that is trying to provide solutions to fight that, how do you keep toe-to-toe with the criminals?
Yeah, we also do react retrospectively to a lot of issues. We're trying to change it now. So the goal here is to sort of, again, provide an equal opportunities to everybody, equal playing field, so everybody would be using same scenarios, would know about new approaches once they happen. But when this is a bit in the future, but how we are seeing that we could realize the large data volumes that we are able to get through our partners is that we can actually build predictive models that will indicate certain like individuals inside the banking system, inside the like financial system, as a potential fraud actors, people who came there with malicious intent. So this is still in the future. This is nobody still has it, but we understand how to build it, and this is what we are working towards.
Okay, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your collaboration with MasterCard, because we love it when we have fintechs, especially startup fintechs, collaborating with incumbents. I think that those are the best matches that we see. So tell me a little bit, how does your collaboration with MasterCard started, and how has Huntli benefited from it?
Yeah, so we have applied as everybody else to MasterCard's Lighthouse Fintech program. We were accepted. As far as I heard from internal communications, that they were very impressed with our results. We were just a year old by that time, so we managed to get some nice traction with also with our other partners. They heard a lot of like great references from there. And we were accepted. We were pretty happy about it. And then it was a pretty intensive program where MasterCard collaborated with their partnership network. Swedbank was there, SEB was there, many other partners were also there. And we came to an understanding of a similar vision and how we want to move this like whole fintech and compliance sector forwards. And so this is sort of in a nutshell. So now we are, in the near future, we will be working with MasterCard's forwards, relying heavily on the data that they can provide in terms of for our own system to sort of analyze and build those predictive models that I just spoke of.
Okay, and then so we keep talking about the future and predictive models. I'm keen to understand from your perspective, what are the threats that you can anticipate will continue to emerge in financial services?
Yeah, so for that we need to go a couple of steps back, and for me to explain how it currently works. So whenever somebody with malicious intent enters banking system, this person could pose as just a legitimate anybody else, like any middle-sized client with just a normal person, basically.
Right.
And there is no way to identify intent in the first place, like when they just enter. And then they could sort of build up their network, identify, for example, create multiple accounts with different people in charge of those accounts, like build up the network. And then they would still, nothing happens there. It's just like regular other people. So when they have identified a victim inside that bank, they would do a social engineering scam, get access to this person's bank account, and then would siphon the money out. They won't siphon the money outside the bank. They would first send small sums of money to those accounts that they have created. So for bank, that would be below reporting limit, so maybe 500 euros, 600 euros. So again, nothing suspicious. So, and those people then would put that money into crypto, into gambling, into anywhere that the compliance procedures are not as strict. So I'm not talking about like 5, 6 accounts. I'm talking about like 20, 30, 50 accounts doing that. So it immediately snowballs into a larger volume. So only when client calls the bank and explains to them that I got frauded, I lost money went somewhere I don't recognize, only then bank starts to act.
Okay.
So what we do, or what we are doing differently, is that on each step that I mentioned, we analyze for potential patterns. So let's say that initial fraudster who sort of orchestrated that whole theme, they entered a bank account with, let's say, email that looked suspicious or looked like a one-use email. You can there's a lot of services for that, and you can easily identify them. They used VPN just to mask their internet activity. They were frequently switching their device when coming back and forth into their own bank account, just to sort of confuse anybody who's in the bank to not be able to track their original location. So this is something that we already can see on the first stage. Then whenever they have, or if we move forward into that scheme, whenever somebody got attacked and they would send money, we can see is it somebody who they recognize? Is it somebody who they worked with before? Is the sum of money larger than certain like volume of their day-to-day operation, of their monthly turnover, of any other rules that we could behavior rules that we could apply to this case. So again, if it is, stop the transaction, call up the customer, ask them what's happening here. Understand that there might be a victim of fraud already. And once, for example, even if we lose all those steps, on the last step, when this customer has split money into those layering, we call it layering accounts, so layering accounts, multiple layering accounts, small sums of money. If those money are getting withdrawn immediately, because this is how fraudsters would like to do that, they want to get rid of, siphon that money immediately.
Yeah.
If they're getting rid of them immediately, stop them right away. Mark everybody who received money from this person as potential fraudster, and you won't have a problem of money actually going out into crypto, into gambling, into anywhere else.
Right. Okay. Now, I'm very keen to understand what drive, being one of the co-founders, what drove you to say this is a problem I want to dedicate my time to solving?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of issues. I was defrauded myself when I was younger, obviously. I've seen those issues happening. And honestly, the main driver for me is keeping my friends and family safe. So I once had this issue when I was visiting my grandma, and she was like, as I came in, she was on a call with somebody, and like, who's that? And she's saying, okay, like banking security is calling me about like some issues with my account. So I'm trying to understand what they want. Go talk to them. Oh no. Yeah, they didn't like that conversation one bit.
No, I bet. Wow.
Yeah, so saved my grandma's pension.
Well, that's a great reason to get into this. I commend you for that.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Now, this is a bit speculative, but I'd like you to give me your opinion on this idea. So far, AML has always been a compliance issue.
Yeah.
You have to do it. It's required of you. It's reputationally, but you have to do it. As technology advances, digitalization increases, new technologies like blockchain and crypto push forward anonymity and perhaps other types of properties. Do you see AML becoming a source of competitive advantage and no longer as opposed to continue being a matter of compliance?
Right. I see what you're saying. So. First things first. So what needs to understand is that if somebody is not implementing enough compliance procedure or just like allowing the money to flow through them, they're not doing it out of goodwill, of a worry for their own customers, for them to like get better services, more frictionless services, etc. They're most likely doing it with malicious intent, to aid or abet those people who are involved in financial crime. We still are working a lot with marking those like financial license holders who are, in our view, are not having enough compliance procedures in the background, and sharing that information with our partnership network. But to your question, AML tool is definitely not a competitive advantage. It does create a lot of friction in the system. However, if you implement those services, AML and CFT services efficiently, you can actually save a lot of money and focus on great products for your own customers. To sort of give you an idea, did you know that when banks are worried about their compliance integrity, they tend to cut on availability of like higher risk products, like high risk financial products to their customers? I'm not talking about like dubious investment opportunities like cryptos or whatever.
Right.
I'm actually talking about bank loans. So bank loans, like business loans. So they would be less keen on providing efficient business loans, which will then influence the economy, if you would look at that more like macroeconomic scale. So you need to do it efficiently to be able to provide more or like better consumer-facing services to your clients.
Right, I see what you're saying. So it might not necessarily be a direct source of competitive advantage, but getting it right allows you to then develop a better value proposition, better servicing. Right. Okay, all right, that makes sense. Let's just close by understanding a little bit what's Huntli's vision and where do you want to be in 5 years?
Oh. Honestly, in 5 years, it would be good for us to be a well-recognized, trusted player on the market. We really want to focus on providing transparent and available playbooks to the industry that will be trusted and will be recognized as the go-to.
All right. Well, Lev, thank you so much. I've learned a lot listening to you, so thanks for taking the time to come and meet us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Likewise.